Welcome, viewers around the world. I'm Lauren Wiener, a managing director and senior partner at BCG and the global leader for marketing. We know that AI is reshaping functions. This isn't something new. We've been talking about the immediate and broad sweeping impact of AI, starting with GenAI, now onto agents, for over 2 years. While 35% of companies are scaling AI and seeing some returns, only 5% have put in place the critical capabilities they need to achieve AI value at scale. Today, we're here to narrow in specifically on go-to-market functions: sales, marketing, and service. While AI is transforming operations across these functions, many leaders are struggling to realize meaningful and reliable business impact. We'll discuss how organizations can move out of that 60% and start creating value with AI. To bring this to life with insights, real-world examples, and key advice, we'll be joined by BCG and Salesforce experts from each function. I'm excited to welcome our first guests, leaders in the AI sales transformation space. Philip Cooper, VP of Product Management at Salesforce, and Fabbri, Managing Director and Senior Partner at BCG. Thank you both for joining me today. Phil, I'm going to start with you. How have you seen sales transformed in the past 5 to 10 years? And where do you see it going?
A lot has happened. I think the seller's role has completely shifted from the pitch man to the consultant on behalf of the customer. You think about the access to information that the customer has today, really everything's at their fingertips. So they have tons of opportunity to research products. They can use reviews. They can use third-party analyst information. They are much well informed. They're spending less time with the buyer. So it's less about conveying information and it's more about, I think, consulting and taking the buyer through that process. Also noticed, I'm curious your thoughts on this one, but we're seeing that it's not so much about one decision maker on the buyer side. There's a buying committee. There needs to be kind of consensus for major decisions. And so it's less about one person pulling the trigger. So that's changed the dynamic as well.
Absolutely. I think customers' expectations have raised as well. Right? They want to be met when they're ready with the right information. They expect you to be prepared and they expect you to know what they need.
On their channel as well, on their preferred channel. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and what are you seeing with the buying committee and who has to be on board to have a decision?
Well, it depends a little bit on the type of sales you have, right? So long sales cycle, high enterprise, complex sales definitely requires higher degree of orchestration. On the other hand, you still have more SMB transactional sales. Doesn't mean that the instrumentation is not necessary on both ends. I think in both cases, sales teams are equipped with better tools, more insights, more information, and just using different points of the sales cycle.
Yeah, and sticking with more information and better tools, let's talk about ROI. What are the different ways that you're seeing AI really drive better ROI today?
Well, let me first say that we've been focused a little bit too much on productivity gains and efficiency when it comes to AI in sales. I think that's one of the reasons why many sales leaders are wary and feel threatened. I think we should reframe a lot more around the opportunity that is in front of you. If I'm a sales leader, I'm less interested in can I get this done in 20% less time or with 20% less people? And a lot more, what can my sales team do more with these tools? Can I drive higher revenue per account? Can I have better retention, less churn? Can I drive cross-sell more effectively? I think that needs to be part of the equation because AI can generate so much more value versus just saving some costs.
So really changing it to effectiveness and outcomes. Are you seeing that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're ultimately measured on when we say productivity, I don't think about literal productivity of the seller, but how much are they generating for the company? How much revenue are they driving? And that's the final litmus test, right, that we're working towards, everyone's working towards. So I see AI as really a growth enabler. It enables sales and go-to-market organizations to scale in new ways that we couldn't previously do. I do think part of that is around eliminating some of the busy work, where there are just transactional kind of productivity gains that are really low-hanging fruit for organizations, but I think it's a more strategic shift that we're seeing right now. So scaling the go-to-market.
Right. I mean, so you talked a little bit before about sellers being more solution-oriented, having the busy work go away. Are there other ways that you are seeing the role of the seller evolve in light of AI and having all these tools to your teammates?
I can start. We are seeing agentic solutions or AI more broadly being deployed along the entire sales cycle, from prospecting to contracting, RFP respondents, guided selling, all the way to negotiation support. And typically it comes in a few different ways, whether it's augmented selling, at least that's how we call it at BCG. It's can I arm my seller with better insight, more information before they meet with the customers, to assisted selling during customer interaction, especially for virtual roles. You can have sales buddy, coaching mechanism. And right now we're starting to see more autonomous selling with agents that preside over specific sales activities 24/7, whether it's nurturing leads, prospecting, churn prevention, and then they send signals to the sellers when it's time to actually engage.
Think about that seller walking in on Monday morning and having the ideal list of prospects to go and work for. So the agent there is working autonomously in the background to kind of gather information, synthesize, prioritize, maybe start the outreach, start warming up those prospects. But that's the potential, is that the seller's got the ideal next thing to do and go ahead and work on. That's now. That's not like science fiction. That's happening right now.
Yeah, the ideal next best action, that's a huge step forward in terms of productivity, and really does allow them to spend that creative time thinking about the client's problem and the solutions.
Yeah, if I might add one other thing here as well, I think this sort of relates as how we are dealing with the deluge of information as just people living in the world today. The seller, in theory, they've got massive amount of information that they could consume and try and analyze in terms of what's going on with consumption, what's happening in the public media with that company, how are their results, what are their strategic initiatives on the customer side. I think most sellers, unless they're doing really key account and working on one customer, they just don't have the cycles to consume all of that. So AI is absolutely amazing at gathering and synthesizing data. And if we do a good job of that, I think it's presenting the pertinent information to the seller at the right moment. It's also, there's a timeliness element to this. There's a kind of window, we were talking about this earlier, there's a window of opportunity you need to grasp. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's the flip side is that AI is also good at generating enormous amounts of text. And I think we have to be careful with not drowning the seller there. So I think this kind of notion of synthesis, summarization is really powerful.
And what about for a sales leader? How is that role changing?
Well, they need to lead the change in many ways. So right now in this transition phase, they need to lead by example. And that's oftentimes it's hard because they were trained, made their career in a little bit of a different environment. But the most successful salespeople in the future are going to be versed and fluent in AI and technology, and they will, I think, embrace a hybrid form of selling, right, where it's AI plus the human elements, which is never going to go away. I think it's just going to be made better per Phil's point.
Yeah, I'd agree with that last point, absolutely, that they've got to think about managing a team of agents and humans together and think about their resource allocation. I think that's going to look different because the scale constraints are changing. It's not just about how many people you can hire and the cost of putting people in the field or thinking about how many SDRs you're going to invest in. You've now got another kind of facet to the equation you've got to consider, which is the economics of it are different and are actually way more scalable. So I think they're going to have to react in that way. I also say I've seen that some of the best sales leaders are just doing this themselves as well. They get deep in accounts, and so they're also selling themselves. And so I think it's sort of showing the rest of the team how it can be leveraged. I've observed some of the best leaders doing that really well as well.
The easier way to understand the change that's needed is trying to go through the change yourself in a way.
Absolutely. And you can lead with empathy.
Yeah.
Last question. What are you both most excited about as this sales function continues to evolve?
Honestly, reaching the potential and the promises of AI. I think we're going to have better sellers, more attuned messages as a customer, because I'm a customer of many enterprises as well. I'm excited when I get a message that is well-tailored, the right product at the right time. I think we're going to reduce waste collectively, and it's going to be a world of improved outcomes, hopefully.
I could talk about this for a long time. I think there are three things that I'm really excited about here. Number one would be how agile and adaptable can the go-to-market team be? I think if you look back, we were doing annual planning. The plan met the reality and then kind of failed. It was hard to adapt and to reorganize, restructure your enablement, your go-to-market, where you're putting your resources. I think there's a potential there to be much more nimble, which is really exciting, take advantage of opportunities much more effectively. I think there's also, I have a hypothesis that we're going to be able to simulate an outcome much better. So you can, maybe as a newer rep who's onboarding is not great in terms of their product knowledge or doesn't have great negotiation skills, you can up level those folks by doing lots of simulations. So they can practice stuff, they can role play, they can work through those scenarios and kind of eventually deliver a better outcome. And I think that scales up to leaders as well, where you could simulate changes in how you're structuring your go-to-market, where you're putting your resources, which products, your bundles you're presenting, those kinds of things. You can simulate those and simulate what the customer response is going to be. And then bring it. So it's almost like imagine a digital twin of your customer that you're experimenting against. I have a feeling that's going to be pretty impactful. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is great. More personalized, more agile, more skilled, better outcomes. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
We've just explored how AI is reshaping sales, transforming sellers into strategic conductors of digital teammates, extending high-quality engagement beyond traditional accounts, and driving up to 30% gains in productivity and customer experience. Now, let's pivot to marketing and see how AI continues to redefine customer relationships even before the first sales conversation begins. I'm thrilled to now be joined by Jania, CMO of Marketing Cloud at Salesforce, and Mark Abraham, Managing Director and Senior Partner at BCG. Mark, welcome.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us here.
So we just heard how sales is transforming. What about marketing? How has it changed over the last 5 to 10 years, and where do you see it going?
Oh, that's a big one. I think the thing I see is like a big flip on customers and the data. So 10 years ago, I was in the digital marketing space still, and I'd have a conversation with our customers, and I would talk to them about, let's say, something tactical like email. And I'm going to help you with your open rates and your conversion rates. And the conversation was, here's the data I'm going to help you collect to make that possible. Now, when I talk to an organization, they have so much data. They have it all. They just don't know how to use it, or they don't know how to get it in the hands of the business user. And so now it's just totally flipped where we have to help them use this data. And honestly, that's one of the great things about AI, because AI can use data better than anything else.
I like to talk about 3-3-3. 3x ROI if we're investing in AI and agents to drive better marketing. 3x the volume. So now with agents and creative AI, you can create so much content, but we have to curate it. And then lastly, 3x the speed. It's all about speed, and marketers are competing on speed these days.
What about you? Are you seeing volume, speed, personalization of these trends that you're seeing with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I think you see, everyone knows you have to personalize. We've been doing this for years to stay relevant. I think the challenge you occasionally see is some people then mistake just volume with like, oh, if I send an email, I'll get X amount of revenue. So the answer is send more email, right? And at a certain point, you create a problem because you don't want to get 3 emails a day from an organization, let alone potentially 3 emails a week. And so I think a lot of this is, how do you move at the speed of the customer? Because they're often, different situations. Imagine someone's looking on a website for an airline ticket. They probably have a very short window they're going to act on. That is a different speed you need to move at than potentially a longer considered purchase or something potentially more in the B2B cycle. But you really have to be listening for these cues and recognizing what's going on and moving fast.
Yeah. I spend all my time at BCG on personalization, leading our team there, and I couldn't agree with you more. It's all about less is more, and we see it in the digital natives. We see it now with leading brands that we're working with. The ones that are getting it right are really thinking about the right next best conversation to have with customers.
And I think conversation, that is the key, right? Because marketing has been so long a broadcast message. I've been a marketer my entire career, and I love to highlight how I'm building relationships with customers. Yet I'm doing it through a one-way conversation. And I think that this is one of those things that AI unlocks, which is, what if every marketing moment could be the spark of a conversation, right? What if that email you could reply to? What if that text message you could reply to? What if you have a conversation on the website and it goes to the next thing? And then, though, just like we heard earlier, now you really have to connect sales, service, and marketing, because you can't be talking to an agent and then it says, I'm sorry, go to a different agent to answer this question.
Well, and I think we then have to get into how LLMs are going to change the entire game. It's no longer the customer searching and I'm doing paid search to meet them there. It's embedding myself in that conversation they're having with AI.
Yeah, I think you're raising really important points. I mean, digital marketing started that journey from that one-way broadcast function to a bit more of a two-way. But with conversational commerce, with LLMs, we do need to be thinking about your share of your large language model, not just SEO. I think that's a really important point. And we do need to think about being able to respond and react in real time. These are great outcomes. What do you think, though, that means for the marketing op model?
Yes. So the way we think about it at BCG is the 5 advantages. You think about insights. For example, in media, we're working with a company to really harness and democratize insights in real time. So you can spot trends like what movies, what music is trending in which geography, and then marketers can act on that. Then you get into innovation. We are working with CPG companies to create new products in 2 months that took a year before, because now you can concept test, run synthetic panels hundreds of times, get your BASIS scores up to 99%, and then launch. Then you get into creative content, of course, and we're seeing amazing gains. For example, the largest marketers in the world, like L'Oreal, rethinking the creative briefing process with agents and getting every brief to be the best brief. And finally, personalization and activation and measurement are also being transformed by AI, with the likes of large marketers like General Motors using AI to precision target and measure at the speed of culture and how quickly we move as customers.
Those are definitely critical advantages for today. What are you seeing, Fabbri, in terms of op model from your purview and how it has to change?
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said there. I think marketers have to let go a little bit more. So, and what I mean by that is, like, we've talked a lot about the idea of like marketing orchestration, but I think that that's going to evolve. And I think it's going to change to much more of a, you're setting up the strategy, you're going through, and those briefs are going to continue to be potentially even more important than ever been before, right? That how is this look and feel going to work? How is this all kind of interconnect? But you're going to have to let the machine make a lot of these decisions, right? Because you're having a conversation. I can't draw the customer journey perfectly for that conversation. I can't make a website, which is much more static, be the perfect flow. I have to let the customer be in control, which we've talked about forever. But now AI can really be the one responding. And I think we're almost going to go more in like a coaching situation where, hey, I hate to use sports analogies, but you got to like drop the play and then let it happen. And so you got to see what goes.
But it's underscoring the importance of your foundation. What does your brand stand for? What are your guidelines? Because if you're not clear on that, then it's hard to trust the machine. It's hard to build these new products.
Yeah, important points, right? Because you can't let go if you don't have the right guardrails in place and you haven't brought your legal organization on board with how it has to evolve.
100%.
Yeah. What are you most excited about, say, 3 to 5 years out for marketing?
Well, I think, let's be honest, this has been a tough year. It was supposed to be the year where we scale GenAI and agents across the entire company. And most marketing organizations have faced tough budget cuts. They've cut their agency support, their own people, and their investments. We're still seeing, by the way, that half of CMOs are investing upwards of $10 to $15 million a year in agents. But the investments required are significant. And so I think what we're challenging our clients to do next year is to lay out a self-funding journey that starts with growth. I love the sales team and how Fede talked about it's not just about efficiencies. It is about ultimately painting the vision for growth. But I think the most bold CMOs are painting how they're going to self-fund that growth with the efficiencies along the way, and thinking about both in turn.
Yeah, I think what's really exciting to me is we all know the operational efficiencies that AI can bring, right? That's like the obvious part there. Where it's going to go is like, what does this mean for relationships and engagement with customers? We're going to be creating things that we don't even anticipate yet, that if I wish I knew the answer for today, it could make me a lot of money, but I don't know what those answers are just yet, but it's going to be fun to watch. The example I like to give sometimes just to frame people is like, as a marketer, we probably all love the Mad Men TV show, but like go back and try to explain to someone from that era what we all do right now and like what products we sell, and it's you can't wrap your head around it. And so I do think that AI is going to unleash both across the board for what marketers can do, but what organizations can build, the products they look like. It's just going to it's going to change so much, and just kind of, I'm ready to watch that.
Yeah, I do think what I'm excited about is just the talent that's going to be coming up and how marketing roles will get rewritten. I mean, there's no reason you can go from idea to product concept all the way through campaign, brief, and creation with just one role, when you have agents under you actually helping you along the way.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting vision. And we heard this from sales. We're hearing it from you. The ability for agents to take some of the toil out of the work, to help make humans more effective, to get those 15 to 20% productivity gains to fund the journey and really achieve the true promise of marketing, which is knowing your customers really well and serving their needs. Mark, Fabbri, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a pleasure.
We've seen how AI is redefining marketing, empowering teams to deliver hyper-personalized experiences at unprecedented scale and speed, with organizations achieving up to 3x ROI, campaign acceleration, and content production. But success hinges on more than adopting new tools. It requires a strategic shift to orchestrating AI agents and creative humans together. Now let's move to service and see how AI continues to enhance the customer journey beyond sales and marketing. For our final segment, we'll be talking about the service function and the optimization of the customer experience in the age of agents. I'm excited to welcome Khoa Lee, VP of Product Management, Service Cloud at Salesforce, and Simon Bamberger, Managing Director and Partner at BCG. Khoa, Simon, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Well, let's get started. So how does agentic AI actually work and generate ROI in the service environment? And more importantly, what are some success examples that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think it always starts with thinking about the customer and their entire journey, right? And usually that starts with reaching out to have maybe a self-service interaction, right? And so we've seen customers deploy AI agents to autonomously handle the conversations. And it's a range, right? We see customers being able to contain between, let's say, 20 to 90% of conversations. That's going to vary so much depending on the complexity, depending on the quality of knowledge, the processes that are in place, right? But sometimes you want those conversations to connect to a human. It could be because the customer, it could be because the conversation itself is strategic. You want to keep that relationship, right? So when you shift over to the human service reps, right, we're using AI to boost productivity. We're using AI to help personalization. We're using AI to improve onboarding time for new reps, right? Service rep jobs are often very seasonal. So in terms of service reps, we're seeing handle time reductions, up to 40 to 50%. And we're seeing onboarding time for new service reps reduced by 25 to even 30%. Super important for seasonality as well.
Yeah. So some of the same themes we've heard from marketing, right? Personalization, upskilling, better conversations.
Indeed. I mean, this is indeed affecting the entire customer service value chain, right? So we like to look at this a little bit like a funnel, right? So at the beginning, we have preempt. How do you actually prevent inquiries from customers from coming up in the first place? For example, by leveraging all the information that you have from all of the service interactions to make your product better, have fewer volume come in. As a next step, we talk about self-heal, which is like being proactive, right? So if I, as a consumer, now receive a message from the company around, hey, your payment is coming up, hey, your other renewal is coming up, etc., being proactive about it. XYZ product is broken, we're going to help you fix this, right? So like this is this proactive experience. And then to your point, right? So how can you help customers help themselves through self-service? And then eventually, how do we make our customer support reps more effective? And agentic plays a role in all of these and can take away so much of that toil, right? And take action, right? So that just makes it easier also for customer service reps to really focus on their interactions with the customer.
Yeah. So efficiency, right? Taking some of the toil out, but also effectiveness with upskilling and better outcomes.
Absolutely. And I want to build on the point that you mentioned about proactive. Like, one of the limitations that organizations had before was just the amount of capacity, right? And what's happening now with agentic is that you have potentially an unlimited capacity to scale up, right? So when you do have the right workflows and tools in place, when you connect, the sales, the marketing, the service journey, turn those all into please reply type conversations instead of do not reply, you then have unlimited amounts of agents being able to handle and drive those conversations and proactively resolve as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic how you can actually achieve so much more now, right? So we oftentimes see this as an efficiency play, but it's also like really a play of how can I do more? And that's actually quite exciting. Yeah.
So the promise is super exciting. What are some of the pitfalls that you've seen along the way?
Yeah, I think for me, two things come to mind. The first is just trying to do too much all at once. It really comes down to understanding the reasons why your customers reach out to you, assessing obviously the volume, the value, assessing the complexity of it. Are you going to be able to solve it in the first phase of it? And then assessing how connected all your systems already are, right? You need to find these early wins and build momentum to deliver this, right? From an organization perspective, that's very, very important. The second pitfall I see is folks oftentimes think about it with just this one piece of the problem that they're looking to solve, right? But, I heard it in the earlier sessions as well, right? When our customers are reaching out now, they may start with a service conversation, but they want to be seen through the entire journey. They want us to know that they have this deal going on. They want us to know that we just sent them, maybe marketing promotions and whatnot. So how do we make sure that's connected? So when we deploy agentic from a service perspective, we're having that full conversation.
Yeah, full conversation across all the go-to-market functions.
Yeah, totally. And then I would say, obviously, the technology is the prerequisite, right? So without the technology, we wouldn't have all of these great impacts, right? So, but at the same time, we also like to say that this is not actually a technology revolution or a technology transformation. It's an organizational transformation, right? So like if you do not bring your people along, right, and they think that they only train their successor and their replacement by using AI, right? So that's not good. You set a negative tone in the organization. So how can you help make people realize that this is actually an opportunity to create so much more, right? So more from the positive lens, extremely important. And then also, obviously, everything around the processes needs to change too, right? So this is a different customer experience. You need to bring your customers along as well as you need to bring your own employees along, and you need to really change the way that they work. And if these things do not come together, that's also like one of the major pitfalls we see.
I think that's right. The change management piece is huge. So as you look 3 to 5 years out, what are you most excited about?
I honestly, like, if all of the things that we're now actually seeing with technology possible, right? So like we see a lot of the proofs of concept and demos and even live, we see some of these things already. If those become real at scale, I'm quite excited about the future. A future in which AI is helping us preempt things from happening in the first place, reaching out proactively in the right moment so that I spare a call in which I am angry at the company, right? So and I get really this like exciting feeling that I'm actually getting served well, right? So and as an employee, right? So that I really have this help to be much more productive and can do so much more. If these things become real, I think we're looking into a very positive future, I would say. I'm quite excited about this.
Yeah, I think it's a similar feeling for me. Right now, there's a really strong belief that this technology can do this, right? And right now we're in the phase of let's get it done with our shared customers. Let's make sure they actually see that full success. And I think ultimately these can be things that transform the jobs. You're talking about the change management with people earlier, right? We can take service reps from ticket takers to problem solvers to value creating, right? We can use these tools to up level and upskill these roles as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
To our audience at home, we hope that you've gained some valuable insights in how to holistically transform your go-to-market functions to pivot to be in that 5% of companies that are truly built for AI. Thanks so much for joining us today.